In this video, I'm going to try and make up one of the more complex code questions that I can, just to show all sorts of aspects that you could come across. And in our other video that we did, I try to show you the basics of how I find the best way to do these complex codes is just one number at a time and just moving through it and focusing on the specifics. So if it's a 5-digit code, it must be an odd number, so that's at the end. There are no repeats, and the code must be bigger than 69,000. And so for starters, which numbers could start off? A 6 could start, a 7, an 8, or a 9. And so this is almost like in the margin. And then when I do the code, so for each of these ones, there's only going to be one option as I focus on them at a time. So if I've chosen to focus on a 6, then there's only one 6 option. Then if it has to be bigger than 69,000, the next number has to be a 9. There are no other options. So again, the next number has to be a 9. And so just for this first example, which is a bit different to all the other ones, as you'll see in a second, I've used up the 6 because I'm saying I want to start with a 6. I've used up a 9 because I have to use a 9. Then instead of just continuing to go in order, I'm going to jump to the other specific aspect, which is that it's an odd number. And so now when I look at the 3 numbers left, there are only 2 options that could be the last number to be an odd number. And so I've used up one of the odds, which means there's only 2 numbers left. So now when I come back to the middle of the number, in a sense, there's only 2 numbers left, and then there'll be 1 number left. If I focus just on the 7, then any of the other 4 numbers could have come next. And so I'm actually going to jump straight to the end and focus on the specifics again and see if I were to focus on being an odd number. If I've started with a 7, then that means that I've used up my 7 to start with. And so if it must be an odd number, I've only got 2 odd numbers left. So now I've used up one of the odd numbers, which means there are potentially, let's just say I use the 3 as an example, there's 3 numbers left floating around. And so these numbers would be 3, then 2, then 1. And I'll do one more example because the rest will go quickly from here. If I started with an 8, any of the other 4 numbers could have been next, but instead of rushing to say 4, 3, 2, 1 here, I'm going to just jump to the fact that it must end in an odd number. If I've used an 8, so the 8 is gone, that means that there are still 3 odd numbers left to choose from. 2 numbers have been used, so there's 3 others available, and then there'll be 2, and then there'll be 1. And then the 9, similarly to the 7, you've used up an odd number, which means that there's only 2 odd numbers left, and then there'll be 3, then 2, then 1. And now all that's left is just to times out these options. So that's 4, 12, 18, 12, so that's 30, 42, and 46 options is your grand total. And that I find is a really helpful way to do these complex coding questions, just bit by bit, focusing on the specifics first. I hope that you found that video helpful. If you did, please like it, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends. Thanks.